Hello and welcome, my friends, to another episode of The Art of Nutrition. I'm your host, Juan Villarreal, and today I'm super excited to introduce to you Pascale Kavanagh of feedyoursoul.com. For those of you that haven't heard of Pascale, she's a speaker, she's a writer, and she's a holistic health counselor that helps people from all over the world accomplish their health goals. Today she's going to share some very, very valuable, interesting insights on the process that she uses to help her clients achieve maximum success when it comes to their health. She's also going to teach us how to maintain a healthy eating plan while we're on a road. For anybody that travels for work or for pleasure, it's not the easiest thing to maintain those healthy eating habits if we're away from our kitchen. And she's going to share her insights on that. She's also going to talk to us about getting your kids, for those of you that have kids, to start thinking about their health and their fitness at a young age and how to help incorporate healthy eating into their life. So you're not going to want to miss it. Pascale Kavanagh coming to you right now. And welcome to The Art of Nutrition, brought to you by VibrantVita.com. I'm your host, Juan Villarreal, and I have a very special guest today. I have Pascale Kavanagh from feedyoursoul.com. Welcome, Pascale. How are you?
I'm so well. Thanks so much.
You look well. That's awesome. So Pascale is brought on a show because she's got a lot of great experience as far as the field of health and nutrition. I've known Pascale. How long have we known each other? For about 6-7 months now?
Yeah, that's true. We met right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that was when in Chicago. That was a really cool experience. So I mean, a little bit more about you. Tell us about Pascale and what, your about your background and what you do, Pascale.
Sure. Everyone loves talking about themselves.
Absolutely.
So here we go. I feel like I've had a very interesting journey to get me to this moment right here. I'm a child of doctors, and so health was always part of my environment, right? Okay. And I couldn't be a doctor because I have no tolerance for blood and gore and all that stuff. But I became an engineer in the biotech industry specifically because it was my goal to bring health and healing to people. And after 15 years in that industry, I had a little bit of a realization that it wasn't exactly the right path for me. That form of healthcare and healing wasn't getting the results that I thought should be gotten. And so I started pursuing alternative avenues. And I went back to school and I studied nutrition and holistic health and different forms of psychological and spiritual healing, which is what I do now.
Cool.
As a speaker and a writer and a coach. So I work with people to get them to their full levels of wellness, which means energy, vibrancy, productivity, sexiness, the whole thing. And it's great. I think we're in an age where there's more than enough information for any person to be able to get on the right track, but it's really hard to figure out what of the, infinite universe of information is going to work for you and your body and your life.
Now, you were in corporate America for 15 years, you said?
Yeah.
So how long how long ago did you start thinking about leaving that position? I mean, and why specifically? You said it was you weren't crazy about those forms of healing and stuff. What was that like?
Well, it's a bit of a gory story, but I realized probably 10 years in, because I had climbed the corporate ladder and I was started to get a different vista of what actually was going on in the biotech and pharmaceutical industries, that they're not so much about individual health, right? It's like any business. It's about money. Yeah. And so I started getting a little bit uncomfortable with the goings-on from my perspective, of course.
Okay.
But I just didn't know what else was out there. Like, if you want to help people get healthier, what do? Right? I didn't know that any of these other forms of wellness counseling and therapy existed.
Okay.
And I believe that, everything has its place. The
Sure.
pharmaceutical world has its place. But
Absolutely.
right now, it's just not addressing the needs of a lot of people who are having chronic issues, psychologically or physically.
Okay. So you said you came across this new teaching forms of healing. What were the steps like specifically? Like, what was your first step? How did you? What was your introduction to this world of healing and more natural ways of health? Like,
I got involved with a few holistic health groups,
okay,
right? So that, about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit less, very trendy, right? Everybody
sure,
was talking about it. And so you could find a lot of information and also alternative medicine. So, what were the people who weren't going to traditional doctors doing? And nutrition was a big part of it. There's a whole range of different energy healing techniques. There's psychotherapy, of course, and also alternative forms
sure,
of that sort of healing. And basically, I went to this meeting, and this woman gave out a brochure, and on the back it had her name, and then she described herself as a holistic health counselor. And I thought, that's it. That is exactly what I want to do. How
right,
do you be one of those?
right,
And so I went home and I Googled it,
sure,
and I found the schools that give you that certification, and there happened to be one in New York City, which is very close to where I live, and
sure.
so I went.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
you took the training, and then you became certified. And what was like your next step? Did you start seeing clients right away, or
Yeah, I did start seeing clients within about 8 months,
okay,
on a one-on-one basis.
okay,
And, it takes a while to get your footing
sure,
when you start this type of treatment, when you're dealing with people on a one-on-one basis and becoming a vessel to be present for whatever is going on. And,
sure,
and it always ends up, you start talking about, well, I want to lose a few pounds, I want to sleep better. And then, as the relationship progresses, it gets to, I'm unhappy in my marriage, or I've suffered this trauma, or I'm getting over some abuse,
sure.
or, the stuff that's underneath what the
What's
superficial problems
what's
look
your
like.
approach when you come across a client like who, let's say, they want to lose 20 pounds? What's your approach for that client? I mean, do you start off trying to dig deep, or do you go nutrition wise, like from a nutrition standpoint?
What I appreciate about my training is that it gave me this huge toolbox. So I think of any individual's wellness as like a mountain. And there are so many ways to scale a mountain,
Sure.
right? There's so many faces, so many routes, the slow and steady, the
Right.
straight up burn,
Right.
right? And so it's a matter of using intuition and experience to assess what's the doorway, right? What's the path that's going to get them there? Sometimes for some people, right, they need data. They need to know what to do, when to do it, and how much of it. And it's very pragmatic. So here's what you eat, here's when you eat it, here are the activities that you engage in, for how long, period, you go. And those people just take off running. For a lot of other people, I would say for the most part, my clients, it's a little squishier than that.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a dance. So, we work through the physical portal, which includes nutrition
Okay.
and movement, but we also work through the psychological portal,
Okay.
which includes thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and finally the spiritual, right? What's the underlying foundation of what brought you to this place? Whether
Sure.
it is that you are that your body is not the way you want it, that your relationships are not the way you want them, that your career, your productivity, your parenting, whatever it is that is of concern, what what was the seed that started this journey that brought you to this place that is now not satisfactory? And we always find that it wasn't, I don't go from the standpoint of, you did something wrong, or, something happened that was wrong. The body is always trying to do the best it can for
Sure.
you. The mind is always trying to adapt so that it's the best experience. Sometimes those adaptations end up to be unhealthy patterns in the long run, but it's not that your body failed you or your mind failed you. It's that it did something to save you from the current situation you are in, but those patterns are no longer needed
Right.
in the current situation you find yourself.
I know, that's interesting. That's really cool. Now, do you apply this to your life and the way you live, you eat and you drink and stuff?
Well, it all comes out of what I need to do to be who I want to be in this world.
Okay.
And so, I am the
And I ask you that because I know you're really healthy, like from what I observe, and that's awesome. So I want to get it straight from the source.
It's all a journey though, honey, right? Because
Sure.
I look at my life and I go, wow, I could sleep but more, I could, be more committed to the practices that I know make me feel better. I could not cheat as often, So it's all an experiment, and yeah, it's a practice.
Sure.
It's not a perfect. And so I found that being diligent about what I put in my body is it kind of sets the tone for everything else, right? So I start sliding in my eating habits, which for me looks like eating out a lot. So I
Sure.
travel a lot. I love fine food and beautiful food and delicious food. And so, I eat at fabulous restaurants, which is not always so great,
What are
all
what are some of the
time.
guidelines that you use when you're out to eat? Like,
All the time. Well, I never deprive myself. So
okay,
if there's something I really want to eat, chocolate cake is not really like the thing for me,
right,
but it is for so many people.
sure,
And no, I'm going to not have that.
okay,
That's not how I work.
okay,
I have it, but I have it in moderation, and I don't have it every single time I'm out. I don't go and it's going to be, oh, this place has marginal chocolate cake and I'm going to have it. No, no, no. I go to where there's going to be the best chocolate cake I can find, and I have enough of it to satisfy me.
sure,
And I think the best we can do is make the best options or the best choices of what's in front of us. So it's not always possible for me to have a fresh squeeze or fresh juiced green juice
right.
in the morning,
And
which
that was
is
my
my favorite thing.
that was my next question because I know you travel a lot,
Yeah,
from what I
it's
gather.
not
So keeping that I don't want to say religion, but keeping that rhythm of eating healthy and being on the road. I know for a lot of people is really tough. Um, a lot of people that travel in corporate America, and they're like, "Well, I'm overweight, but I'm out there, and all there is food or fast food and restaurants with these high calorie meals." So how do you manage that? And you're kind of going into that right now. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's a commitment, right? Because I know the consequence of not doing that. It it it's the domino that triggers everything else to fall. So when I start eating badly, my mind is not as sharp. I'm not as present as I need to be to speak to either one person intimately or a huge audience of people. I can't have that. I'm not producing creatively. And then I start to feel bad. I'm not sleeping as well. And then I'm craving more bad things.
Sure.
So it's really this catch-22. And I know once I get started on that cycle, it's so much harder to get off. So when I'm faced with a choice, of something that I know does not serve me in the long run, I really have to pull up the experience of what happens long term, which is so hard for people, right? Because it's like you see this thing and it's immediate gratification. I want it. And I don't want to have to say no.
How do you do that? Like you say, you pull it up in your head and you see that long term. Like if you were guiding one of your clients to do that, what would the steps be for that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think the first step is you really have to get in touch with the consequence of not doing that.
Okay. For
Once,
example, heart disease, overweight,
absolutely.
diabetes.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, like these are such general concepts. They're all over the media. Some people connect to it because they've had a personal experience, right? They've had a health scare, but a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, that's not going to happen to me, or
Sure.
that's not going to happen to me for another 20, 30 years, right? I'm good, I'm young. It's like, well, do you feel sexy when you go out?
Sex
Right?
is good, right?
Do you, can you keep up with your kids?
Sure.
Can you keep up with your friends? Can you um, make the decisions you need to make on a daily basis to have the life you want to live? Or is it just cloudy? Or is it stuck? Or are you sad? Right? You got to connect those outcomes to the things that triggered them. And food is a really tangible, easily accessible place to start.
Sure.
As I said, it's sort of the easy doorway to go through because, we can do psychoanalysis, we can do a whole spiritual healing, but those are more esoteric. They're harder for people to connect to. But I can tell you that once you start shifting your eating patterns, everything else falls into place. Like you just add a few more greens into your life,
Sure.
just a few more, and then all of a sudden, the cake is it doesn't have the same pull on you. All of a sudden, you wake up and you go, "Wow, I just want to go for a run. I
Sure.
gotta run, but I just want to do that, or I want to like skip rope with my kids, or you know, it it happens naturally, and it seems like I'm just making that up, but you have to have that experience to know it. It's so true for me and for the people I work with. It doesn't take a lot. It's not like, okay, you got to throw away all the stuff that you used to do and start from scratch in this very limiting and punishing regimen. It's not about that. Life is too short, right? My company's called Feed Your Soul.
Sure.
It's not called, beat your own butt.
Right. Right.
Who wants to live that way?
To change gears on you for a second here, we were talking before we started recording about children. How can someone apply this to their kids? I know kids, they love to eat all the fast food just because they're so programmed. We know school lunches aren't the best. So, in your perspective, how can you help children ingrain good values and good eating habits while they're young? You think that I would say that's pretty important.
There's this great saying,
Hmm.
when's the best time to plant a tree?
Right.
The first answer is 20 years ago.
Right.
The next answer is right now. And so the best thing is to start from the beginning, right? So when I had a child, we didn't do children's food. She ate what we ate. And so her palate adjusted to things like artichokes and avocados, and we love spicy food. She loves spicy food. She loved different exotic cuisines, right? It wasn't about we're having chicken nuggets
Right.
and kitty size snackable things. I don't,
Right.
they have these crazy names. And that starts it because a lot of that kid oriented food is horrible. It's the worst. You shouldn't feed it to your pets. You shouldn't, nothing.
Yeah, I look at some of these snacks
It's,
and I look at the just the ingredients, forget the calories and stuff, and I'm like, what the heck is
I,
that?
I know, and I just don't, I mean, it's a big industry. It's a big money maker for
Sure.
convenience and cuteness, and kids,
R-
resonate with it. but it's not the right path. So if you start, and if you're living in that way, it makes a huge difference. So that's the other one. You can wag your finger and tell your kids to eat their vegetables all you want, but if you're not doing it, it's a lost cause, right?
Absolutely.
Kids model more than they listen. So if you haven't set the foundation and they're already adapted to fast food and things like that, which really shift your palate, then you gotta, it's kind of a long-term process. You gotta wean them. This is horrible to say, but it's like, an alcoholic or something.
Sure.
You gotta just make the behavior less and less attractive until it falls off, which means you start introducing a little bit at a time fun things into the menu. You make little trees out of the broccoli, and maybe you even put cheese on it, right?
That's awesome.
So that they get used to, they like the cheese, and they're getting used to, okay, this green thing had a kind of a different texture and flavor. Let me get used to it. There are so many wonderful cookbooks for healthy eating for kids, where you make designs out of the food. I mean, we do smoothies in the morning, which I love.
What do you put in a smoothie?
Mine is like green and brown and all sort of, it's intense. And my daughter's is pink and stuff, but she's got carrots and kale and cucumbers and celery in there.
Wow.
You just can't see it because there's strawberries and bananas and, it's cute. And
Very
so
cute.
It's good. She's getting her vegetables in. I put a vegetable in anything I can. I just throw it in there. I put it in tomato sauces. I put it in, of course, stir fries are mostly vegetables. But anywhere I can sneak it in, throw it in, put it in, it's great. Because when they're out in the world, they get assaulted with this stuff that's, as you said, it's not that great.
Right. No, that's some great advice. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to ask because I always see when I'm walking through the grocery aisle, just like these kids things, and I'll just out of curiosity, I don't have any kids, but I look at the ingredients and wow, I'm like, really?
Scary.
Yeah, it is scary. It's great, and the marketing's so good nowadays that what kid's not gonna like it? The marketing or big media companies relate fun and excitement and colors to the kids' meals, so that's what kids like.
So here's what happens when it goes to the other extreme, right? You have a kid who's watched your own journey as you became food savvy and very committed to holistic health, right? You go to the supermarket and she's critiquing other people's grocery baskets. She'll walk up to a stranger and go,
"That's awesome.
No, it's not good for you," right?
That'd be a great video, like for YouTube.
It's a little bit embarrassing, but part of me goes, "Yeah."
That's great. Yeah, and I think people need to be aware of that stuff, and when a kid's pointing it out, it says a lot about that kid. So, definitely a good start. Hey, I know you were mentioning about mixing up your greens and stuff in the morning. You just recently are still in a process of doing a juice fast. Tell me more.
Yes, I'm a cleansing queen. For many years, I ran cleanses.
Okay.
With each seasonal change, which is the perfect time to do it.
Okay.
This year, and I designed them myself, but this year I subcontracted, which was very exciting. So there are this uprising of all these companies who will deliver fresh juices to your house every day for cleanses, which eliminates schlepping 30 pounds of produce home every day and cleaning the juicer, which is, not my favorite thing.
I have fun cleaning my juicer.
Really? It's good. I know people people becomes a Zen thing, it's part of the process. It never came to that for me.
Okay.
So I thought, let me try these companies. They are pricey, but it was brilliant. So I did a cleanse where I was drinking a few green juices and it's like it was romaine and kale and celery and cucumber and lemon And there might be
Just a
one
bunch
other
of good
thing
stuff.
that I can't remember.
Sure.
It was a little bit shocking. It's like, woo,
Right.
okay. But after the fourth or fifth one, your palate adjusts, and then in between you can have herbal tea and water with lemon, with cayenne, which is the ingredients for master cleanse, which is something that a lot of
Sure.
people are familiar with. They're getting trendy, so you can do that in addition. And so my cleanse process for this year, for this season, was 7 days of green juice only,
Okay.
and then 7 days reintroducing raw foods. And so I still have my green juices, but once or twice a day I'll have a salad.
Cool.
And salads for me are very exciting. I'm not just like a green leaf. I throw so much fun stuff in there.
So salads can be fun?
Absolutely. It's almost like art. I mean,
Sure.
I can't draw or anything. So for me, food is my artistic expression. I make it look pretty. I choose things that have nice colors. I play with it. I don't. I let go of my rigidity. And then, so that's 7 days. And then the last 7 days, I begin to introduce some cooked foods.
Okay.
So right now, I'm in my second week. So I'm just beginning to have raw foods. And it's great. I mean, it just inspires so much else in my life, right? I remember how good my fitness and movement practices feel. I remember how good meditation and yoga and my other spiritual practices feel. I remember what having a clean house feels like. So this time I've just been on fire the whole time about decluttering and cleansing not only my internal environment but my external. Every day there's bags of donations out on the curb.
Sure. So it kind of sounds like clean mind, clean body, everything else cleans up around you.
Exactly. And different people will have different experiences, right? Because it just depends on what was being stuck by their habits that is now pried loose by the process of cleansing. And for me, the reason that I do it so regularly and so frequently is because of my lifestyle. I'm in the air a lot. I'm in restaurants a lot.
Time zone changes.
Crazy hours
Right.
sometimes. And so I know that my body builds up toxicity. I know that. And getting a hard reset every quarter or semi-annually is what it takes for me to keep driving on the path. Right? It's sort of like, okay, I'm coming in for my cleaning. So the same reason we brush our teeth every day, right?
Right.
We're cleaning it out to start fresh, which is what my cleanses accomplish for me.
Most people that do these juice cleanses, I know they're great for you, but I talk to a lot of people that can't get past that first day or that second day. They just say, you know what, I get the headache, my body doesn't feel natural. You ever get those feelings, and how do you overcome that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's unfortunate that the people who need cleansing the most will have the most severe side effects. However, so day 2 or 3 are typically the worst.
Okay.
And then it's like skiing downhill. So you just have to get through. What I find works best is to not be alone, to either do it with a group or hire somebody who, like a coach or a counselor, who's going to keep you going when it feels like your head's going to explode and you would give a limb just for a bite of anything, and it's hard, you're hungry. We don't allow ourselves to feel hunger anymore.
Sure.
Food is so prevalent. It's everywhere. You're driving, you're walking the street, you're standing in line, you're on the phone. There's always food.
Sure.
And so we've, as a people, kind of forgotten what the sensation of hunger feels like. And so when we experience it to that degree, it feels like death. It feels like death is imminent, but it's not. And you just have to hear somebody tell you, you're okay, take a deep breath, have some water, breathe, just be with it. Any human being can, I believe, tolerate, survive anything for a day. And that's all it is. It's like, okay, I'm going to survive. I'm going to get through this
First day.
I'm not going to think about
Sure.
the next 20. No. That's a recipe for failure. I'm going to get through today. And when I wake up tomorrow, it's a new day. And that gets me through. And I mean, different times I experience different side effects. This time, it wasn't so bad. I would say hunger for sure, but I didn't get headaches. I didn't get stomach pains or body aches, which is great.
Sure. Yeah, you could deal with the hunger, right?
Yeah, but which is not to say that next time it's not going to be like hitting the wall.
So it could do with how many toxins are going through your body at that time. Like you said, the more toxic the body is, the harder that detox is.
Right. And so I recommend to people whose diets are more full of unhealthful choices than healthful, or you drink a lot, or you smoke a lot, or you have crazy stress. Don't start with the hardest thing. Don't do a green juice fast, right? Just start with a salad once a day,
Okay.
as opposed to no salad ever. That is your cleanse. For dinner every day, instead of my regular meat potatoes thing or drive-through thing, I'm going to have a salad. That's where I start. And then it's not so bad. I'm not going to, to go from 4 cups of coffee a day to only 4 cups of green juice. That's going to be very painful. I mean, only the most extreme of people are going to make it through that.
Sure.
And so I would just never take somebody down that road.
No, that makes sense. So we had a few minutes left here, and I just wanted to ask you, so if let's say someone that's listening to the show right now that wants to take the next step and wants to get healthy, what are just a couple things they could do right now to start taking that path?
My first step for everyone, I have, I offer the AAA plan,
Okay.
which is not that I'm going to come jumpstart your car. It's awareness, alignment, and action. And so the first step is always just to recognize that something isn't right. I don't feel the way I want to feel. I don't look the way I want to look. I don't have the relationships I want. I don't have the career productivity. It's just not right. And
Sure.
then to start to deconstruct what parts of your life are leading to those feelings. Okay, well, let me see. How much do I actually sleep, right? How many hours am I in bed? What is the composition of my meals? Let's just take a look at that. We're not going to judge it. We're not going to change it. I just want you to know what is real for you first. Because a lot of people, they want change, but they won't actually admit to where you are. It's like wanting to take a trip. I want to go to Arizona, but I'm not going to admit that I'm actually in New Jersey now.
Sure.
I'm going to pretend I'm in Maryland. So my map is going to be Fakaka's, right?
Right.
It's not. It's irrelevant. So we gotta be where we are, and then the next step is to create some alignment. So okay, here's what I want. I'm gonna move myself closer to that thing. I want to feel more energetic.
Okay.
And I know I'm not sleeping enough. I'm gonna move a little closer. I'm gonna go to bed half an hour earlier. Right? I'm gonna bring me and the me I want to be a little closer together.
Sure.
Right? And through those actions, you things start turning over. And so my first step is just to look at it, be truthful. A lot of people are advocates of food diaries. If that works for you, do it. Write everything down. It's not that's not typically how I work. I want to know not the data of it, but how does it make you feel?
Sure.
And then and then everything else comes easily because we don't suffer from lack of information. It's not that you don't know that these foods are good for you,
Right.
and
We all
these foods
know.
less,
Right.
right? It's like we're in denial, we're in pain, we're whatever it is.
That's awesome. Well, I could definitely use some of your tips, so thank you for that. Yeah, that. So, Pascal, thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it. If
Uh,
somebody wants to learn more about you and what you do, what's the best way?
well, come check me out at feedyoursoul.com. Talks a little bit about what I do, how I came to do it, and how to do it with me.
Cool. And I'll also place a link underneath the interview. Um, and that's it. Well, thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening out there in NYC.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
There you go, Pascal Kavanagh, guys. Art of Nutrition. Thank you very much.